And a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and nature lovers around the world, and welcome to our sunset safari. For those of you who don't know or joining us for the first time, my name is Jamie, and I have Brian on camera with me this afternoon, currently filming an amazing herd of ellies that we just happened to bump into on our way to the Birmingham boys from this morning. Now, if you are joining us for the first time, this is a live safari, so everything that you're seeing on your screen is happening right here in real life on Djuma and Arathusa game reserves in the Sabi Sands. And please send us through any questions that you have. You can do that on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Now, it is much warmer this afternoon than it has been recently, and I know that Wendy will be out with Brent and one of the cameramen a bit later this afternoon. They are slightly delayed due to our plans being made for those cloudy, rainy days that we have every now and again. Now, what I am going to do is shift forward a little bit so we can see this elephant baby going about his business. His or her business. No, definitely a him. I think we're going to be lucky with these guys. I do think they're going to go across to the dam and drink soon. Hello, little one. Standing in a ditch. Oh, that looked like quite a complicated maneuver. I said it's hot. It's 28 degrees, which is 81 degrees in Fahrenheit, so it's much warmer than it has been over the last few days. We had a really nice, cool patch where the weather dipped the temperatures down really nicely for us all. And I think the elephants were enjoying that, but they're hot again. Hey, little one, found some shade in there. Picking out and targeting. I've been watching them while we've been sitting here, and the trees that they're after. It seems like knob thorns are the flavor of the afternoon, knob thorns and buffalo thorns. Where are you going, little one? Disappearing off. Now you can hear the wind howling, and that always has a tendency to make elephants just a little bit uncomfortable. Important. They're perfectly relaxed now, but it is important for us to respect their space, especially on a day like today. I'm hoping that that wind isn't bringing in a storm. There's a feel of electric tension in the air, and I know I'm not the only person who's picked up on it. Hopefully it will hold off. Hey, big girl, you're going to disappear as well. She's quite a young elephant cow. Probably only just sort of reaching 20, although she's probably had her first calf already. You probably find that that little one is her calf. They tend to stick close to mom even when they're fully weaned and independent, and even after they have siblings born, their closest bonds will be with their mothers, even though they are very tightly bonded to the rest of the herd. See what our ellies are doing before they disappear completely. We're right up against the Mulwati drainage line, which is of course where the vegetation gets very thick. So if these ellies do disappear down here, I'm not going to try and follow them. I'll let them move as they want to, and I think they might. The rest of the herd appears to have disappeared. It's just these two still. I mentioned that I was on my way to the Birmingham boys, and for those of you who might have missed the sunrise safari, all 5 of them were last seen sleeping up around Buffelshoek Dam with James, and interestingly, territorial marking all at one go. One of them nearly got James with the urine spray. It was highly entertaining. I really thought he was going to get splattered. Walked up to the bush right next to the vehicle and promptly sprayed it. Did in fact hit the car, which just goes to show how comfortable they can be around vehicles. maybe a little bit too comfortable for James's comfort this morning. Alright, Ellies. I think we will leave you in peace to go into your drainage line. It doesn't look like they're going to pop out. The rest of the herd has moved further into the thick stuff. You can see how dense the vegetation is there. Let's head out and see what else we can find. Here's Mom. Tucked away. I know that Brent had an amazing sighting. He said there were lots of elephants around this area. They could all be napping down in the drainage line. And I think what I'm going to do, instead of going across in this direction, I might take a loop around and let's see if we can find any more of them on our way up to the Birminghams. It is hot, which to me suggests the Birmingham boys are not going to be moving anywhere just yet. So we'll give them some time for the temperature to cool down. We can head across in that direction, and when that happens, I noticed they weren't looking too full. You never know. Right, and while I go about exploring, please keep your eye on the damn camera, because I think these elephants will come up for a drink. None of them are wet or muddy, so they haven't been around there earlier this afternoon, which means it's about time for them to head across and have a drink. And something that you might have picked up on, and I have heard but not yet seen, is something Chris was asking about. Yes, you did hear a kingfisher on the damn camera. The woodlands are back in town, the woodlands kingfishers, and for those of you who don't know, it's a migratory species of kingfisher, and their call is just such a typical sign of summer, that descending trill. It's very loud, very piercing, and associated with the height of summer when they come back from Central Africa. And our first breeding pair has returned. I know James struggled in vain to try and see it, only to have it emerge on the Djuma Dam camera about an hour later and hang around. So they are there. They are back once again. Now I've completely lost track of where we are in the month. It must be around the 17th. I think we might be on the 17th. That sounds about right. I think that's quite impressive, because usually I don't even know what month we're in. So they arrived back on the 16th for us of November. And it's an exciting time of year, because some of those impala look like they are about to explode. I've heard reports that impala lambs are dropping in Kruger, and I think one of the cheetah planes vehicles might have seen their first impala babies. So that's another thing we're on the lookout. We might be the first people to see the first impala lamb on our live drive, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Oh, there's some impala. Have you got any babies in there? Doesn't look like it. Very far in. And I don't want to make any of them run at this point. I feel terrible for the mothers. You might be able to see just a flash of brown poking through the trees, but I don't think so. No, I think we'll leave them for now. They're too far in. And because those moms are so pregnant, I've been taking circuitous routes around them so that they don't feel too stressed out, or stressed out enough to go trotting around. Down into this drainage line. Now, I know that Brent's plans are to return to Karula. She's still in the area of her impala kill. I'm sure when he does head out, he'll be up and running and going in that direction. See what we can find in the meantime. It's calling me now. Standing by. Sorry, guys. That's a negative. it sounds like Brent is out and about on this beautiful sunny day. Head down into the drainage line. Brent, you're on Jigger's radio channel. Just letting Brent know that he's got the wrong radio channel, so hold on one moment. Take our dip into the drainage line. See what we can spot there. Some very large elephant tracks, so they have been around this area. Tracks. Definitely keep your eyes peeled on the Djuma Dam camera. They're going to pop their way up in a moment. Just look how much groundwater has collected. Sorry, just a sudden subject change. And it's still around even on these hot days. And these pans like this are so important at this time of year. Now, we've had some incredible sightings over the last few days, but a lot of that was because the animals are starting to centralize around the dams. Now that we've got a bit of groundwater, they'll be able to stay spread out where they are. They don't have to move too far to have to go and have a drink, which I can imagine if you're a pregnant female impala is quite the relief. It's in these thick clay mud sections that you really get the best water holes. Now, all of these dips and these holes where animals go and wallow, a lot of them are started by things like, just like a little warthog, where a mud puddle has collected and they roll in it and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. Eventually other animals like buffalo come along, and then of course the main landscapers of this environment, the elephants, will come along and start to throw mud around and really deepen them and open them up. So they've got their own unique way of growing. I don't know if you've ever thought about how those tiny little cans that we have get started. They have their beginnings as a very humble puddle and then helped along by the animals out here. And in a way that then works completely to their advantage, because they've created their own little mini water sources as well as mud spas. So they can go and cool down, relax a little bit around them. I love this part of the drainage line. It is so beautiful. Whenever I come down this road, I'm now always on the lookout for Karula. As far as I know, that since that one sighting that we had really briefly of him, when he disappeared off into this drainage line, he was around his mom as well. And as far as I know, at least I haven't heard him called in on the Game Drive channel since that sighting. So I'm still wondering if he's not hanging around somewhere on Djuma, which would be so nice for us, because I've really yet to spend much time with him. And I'm curious to see what his personality is like. I've heard a lot about Karula and quarantine, yet to encounter them. Always keep your eyes peeled. And just round this corner, try and go nice and slowly. I haven't managed it just yet. There is a nesting harrier hawk. I know that, I think might have been either Scott or James managed to show you guys the harrier hawk on her nest. Every time I approach, she's very shy. She disappears off. She's in this green thorn. Let's see if she's on the tree. She might be out hunting. Oh, there she goes, flying away. One day, I'm going to manage to catch these two while they're sitting on their nest. It's interesting to see the different behavior of the birds. Being mobbed there, I think, by drongos. Interesting to see how the birds behave. You've all seen our warbirds eagles and how relaxed they are. Yet the harrier hawks haven't relaxed in any way yet. Here's the nest sitting in the fork of that tree. The other thing that always amazes me is how incredibly messy the nests of raptors look. They look like they would barely withstand any kind of wind, let alone some of the storms that we've had recently. And I guess everything's in terms of how they're placed in the fork of that tree. And I think that branch that's just above it curves over it and provides protection. I'm sure many of you heard about the terrible hailstorms that have hit just to the east of us, just to the west of us, around Hoedspruit. And they had hail there during that big storm that sent us rushing back home on Sunday night. The people in Hoedspruit were getting hail the size of tennis balls. There were photographs of them compared to tennis balls. There's been some seriously extreme weather, and you wonder when you look at a messy nest like that, whether or not they ever get damaged or what must happen to the poor birds inside them. Any of them. Elephants have provided. There we go. It's a beautiful tree though, very solid. To spend too much time. I don't want to keep the harrier hawk away from its nest. I'm just going to navigate around an elephant roadblock, quite a spectacular one actually. And while I do that, and while I make my way to Biffletook, I believe that Brent is up and running. Let's head across to him so he can say hello to you all.
Hi everyone, and welcome on the Sunset Safari. We're back with the Queen of Djuma, Madam Karula. She's still in the tree above the impala carcass, and it looks like she's just resting at the moment. We're hoping she's going to move down and start feeding shortly. My name is Brent Smith, and I have Genre on camera with me today. So this is a really, really good thing for Karula, a very nice big carcass. I think she's probably still going to be here for another day. Oh, there we go, she's on the move. Hopefully she comes down and starts feeding. Or she could be just looking for a better place, a more comfortable place to rest in the tree. And these African ebonies or jackalberries are firm favourites of leopards. For hoisting kills in and resting, they provide a nice ample green cover to protect them from the burning African sun. incredible how an animal of that size is so fleet of foot up in the high branches of a tree. Well, there we go. Looks like she's going to come down. So hopefully she's going to come down this side. She might not. Oh, wait. Just wait. She's going to come down the side of the tree. So I hope you guys got some fantastic screenshots there as she leapt out of this tree. And remember, you can post those on the Safari Live Facebook page, or just use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So she's obviously had her fill, and just making sure it's still there. And she probably is going to find a nice shady spot quite close to the carcass to lie down and digest. As you can see, her belly is hanging very low at the moment. So wonderful to have Karula back here, and back for an extended time. We haven't seen her that much in the last few months. And for those of you who might be new viewers, one of the very distinctive sort of markings of Karula, and she has the spots between her eyes, almost looks like it forms the word wow. So she might head to that little thicket there. It's going to provide some shade, or she might just lie down in the shade of this big jackalberry. Boom. So we had that incredibly large thunderstorm a few nights ago, and it's unusual for a leopard generally to make a kill in an area this open. And with that thunder, lightning and wind swirling around, it enabled her to get much closer to an impala out in this open area, and she managed to kill an adult female impala. And I know it could be a little bit disturbing for some of the viewers, but inside that impala was an unborn fetus, which she did pull out as well and start eating. And we're going to try and have a look at what's left of the carcass. This morning I can still see, we can still see the fetus's legs, so she hasn't finished eating the fetus yet either. So when, Andre? Yeah. So there we go, you can see there's still a lot of meat left on here. And you can see those tiny little impala fetus legs. So still lots of meat, so she's definitely, I think, going to be here for at least another full day, maybe a day and a half. Nice and safe up there from hyenas. The strongest possibility that she might lose this kill would be to a male leopard. Great scavengers of kills made by the female. And it would have been really, really heavy for her to lift it up there. So what she would have done is she would have taken out the entrails on the ground. And if we look carefully at the base of this tree, we'll see there's a very distinct pile of leaves. And that's where she's buried all the undigested grass that would have been in the impala's stomach. So it would have made it lighter for her to carry. I mean, even still, if we think about it, probably in terms of pregnant female impala, is probably around 35 kgs or so without the stomach. I'm trying to do the pound conversion. Maybe you guys can help me with the pound conversion. Maths is not my strong point. And could you send those conversions through to the email address questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Jandre is cackling at my inability to do maths. I'm sure he's probably quite good at maths, being a technical camera person. But let's go have a look at Karula. We're probably not going to spend too long here. Obviously everyone might have noticed that we're building up to Big Cat Week, and Sean from Secunda in South Africa is wondering what is Big Cat Week and what's going on. So Sean, Big Cat Week is going to be an incredible week where the Safari Live shows, as well as a whole bunch of other National Geographic Wild shows, will be featured during prime time slots in the US. And so we will be hosting live safaris and live walks during Big Cat Week. Unfortunately not on Nat Geo in South Africa yet, but only in the States so far. And we're all very, very excited. It's going to be wonderful. We've got an incredible crew gathering for the TV shows. And of course, for all our regular viewers, we will be on the website on wildearth.tv or wildsafariLive.com, and you can keep track with us, and the shows will go on, so you will see the same shows that are being produced in the States, but online obviously. So if we do have any new viewers there, you're probably a little bit worried. Why would she lie out in the open here? Doesn't seem to be much protection from other possible predators like lions or hyenas. And even though her eyes are dipping and she is napping, you'll notice her ears are constantly moving. And she is still very aware, even though she is asleep, or resting rather than fast asleep. And she'll probably be enjoying a bit of cool from the sand in the shade of that African ebony tree. I don't think she's going to move for the next while. I think she's going to rest up. But don't worry, we will definitely be coming back to check up on her later on this evening. And see that heavy breathing. And they're unable to get rid of heat like us, so their best form of heat release is heavy panting. And obviously the whole digestive process does cause, or does generate even more heat. And then she's doing a bit of grooming after feeding. Well, a big thank you to Chris, who's helping me improve my maths. And it is 30 kgs is 66 pounds. It's 2.2 pounds to the kilogram. Thank you very much for that, Chris. Fortunately, I'm good at other things like tracking leopards. Otherwise, if I had to do maths for a living, it would be a very, very sorry state of affairs. They are just the most exquisite creatures. So, as the sun beats down, nice and hot, well, looking at her panting away in the heat, and it's not that hot yet today. Sarah in Ohio is wondering, do lions or leopards ever die from heat stroke? Well, fair Australia, it is possible. I have heard about one case in the South Luangwa Valley in Zambia where a lioness died from overheating. Probably not heat stroke itself, but maybe a form of heat stroke. If their core body temperature raises by just a couple of degrees, it can cause massive organ failure. This particular lioness was in a very bad state already. She was very hungry and she had a wound, and she was sort of wandering around in a big sandy riverbed far away from the shade. But normally during the heat of the day, they'll try and minimize their movements, find nice shady spots to lie up. And especially with a full belly, they'll be very, very inactive. They will try their best not to move too much. And possibly the most movement we're going to see is about that, probably flopping down, lying on her side. She might roll over a few times when that sand underneath her gets very warm. So I think we'll let the queen rest, and let's go see what else is out in this wonderful African wilderness we call home. So great way to start. Jamie had some ellies and always wonderful to catch up with Karula. So I think we're going to head up towards the sort of sandy patch area and the Impala Plains. Go look for an animal we don't look for every drive, but I do know there's some really nice warthog in those parts. I know Jamie was making her way towards the last position of the Birmingham males, and they're probably also going to be very flat cats at the moment. Fingers crossed they get up and do some vocalizing for tonight. Wouldn't that be incredible, having 5 male lions calling at the vehicle? The whole vehicle seems to vibrate, shudder when the male lions call. And speaking about the lovely Jamie, we're going to go see what she's been up to.
And we're still on the way towards those Birmingham boys, but a couple of minutes still to go. Now Brian and I just had a very false alarm excitement moment. We went racing through the bush off-road, through thick bush, to try and find out. We had 2 starlings sitting in a tree fighting, and we thought they were mobbing something like a snake. So I went out and I had a look, couldn't find anything. I think it's just a tiff around breeding season. A lot of the sort of passerine birds are all entering their courtship phase now. We've seen it with the rollers. We've seen, of course, Scott's amazing lilac-breasted roller nest. But the bush shrikes, the shrikes, they're all at that stage. If they do breed in South Africa, they are courting each other and then fighting with other males to chase them away. And I think what was actually happening there was the starlings were just having a bit of a disagreement between 2 boys. Hello, little one. Oh, are you gonna stop? Are you gonna stop? You were so close. 2 little steenbok dashing through. Here we go. Just a brief flash of a steenbok bottom. You can see how that white shows up in the bush so clearly. If you keep your eyes fixed on it, as Brian zooms out a little bit, you can see how it sticks out as it moves. And then gone. Disappeared. See what bird life we can too far. Let's see if we can get a nice view. It's a nice male and female. Oh, no. The minute you stop to look at them, they disappear further. I know that Brent was chatting to you a little bit about the excitement around Big Cat Week, and of course we're all so excited to be involved in this amazing project. Very keen. And Pamela, you were wondering if Peter and Hayden are coming back. Yes, they definitely are. Peter is actually arrived today. You will be seeing him around and about at some point. I'm not going to give too much away though, because that would ruin some of the surprises that we have planned. But yes, both Peter and Hayden will be back for Big Cat Week. And with some of the sightings that we've had over the last few weeks, I think it's safe to say that it promises to be an incredible experience. Something that I know that we all feel incredibly fortunate to be a part of. Something that I've really enjoyed doing. I know a lot of you will know I've been doing drives for my old school. It's where I was in high school in Johannesburg. I've been doing drives for some of the girls there, and it's been an absolutely phenomenal experience. I love it so much. I feel that it is so important to foster that love and amazement that the bush brings out in people, and this kind of environment brings out in people, and especially with children, when they are going to be so responsible in the future for helping us protect and conserve this great place. Definitely an incredibly exciting opportunity. Even Quarry Pan has a little bit of water. It's very green, but there's definitely water there. First time I've ever seen water here. That's exciting. But not in the direction I want to go in. That James has pointed out this morning, but it's amazing how green it is. It's so beautiful to see, and lions of the Sabi Sands, you will be seeing it very soon, I believe. That's so exciting. You'll get to see all of these incredible animals. Our Lions of the Sabi Sands is on their way to Cheetah Plains, which is one of our neighboring lodges, and of course people that we see fairly regularly while we're driving around here. I believe that Craig is going to be your guide, and I'm sure that promises to be a tremendously exciting experience. I hope you enjoy every minute of it. I'm hoping I stopped here just because I don't want to scare it away. Just a little dwarf mongoose to show you on our way to our lion sighting. We're going to move from the smallest predator to the biggest predator this afternoon. Hello, little one. And all around me, even though I can't see them, I can hear the contact calls of the different members of this group. There's definitely more. Little heads. Every now and again a little head just pops itself up. And I think we've been lucky here. We've got a brave group of dwarf mongoose. Very comfortable with the presence of the car. Hello, little one. Are you coming to have a look at us? You can see how close the bonnet is right there. Oh! It's right. Oh, there we go. It was right under my front tire having a sniff, and decided that whatever it smelt was just not cool. Disappeared off as quickly as possible. We've got one more of these wonderful little things sitting in the middle of the road. Foraging around. All accompanied by the little squeaks and calls. And this must be heaven to them, this weather. After a patch of cold and rain, where most of the time they stay huddled away as much as possible, but of course with cold and rain come a whole digging away furiously. The dampness in the water brings out a variety of insects for them to catch and eat. In this case, I'm not sure what this little one is furiously digging for. Could well be a scorpion. They are famous for their ability to sniff out and then dig a scorpion out of their burrow. Let's see what this one finds. I don't want to disturb it now. No, whatever it was, given up the dig. It must be like Christmas for them. A feast awaiting them when the sun does come out. I love watching the way their little legs work so furiously fast. I'm sure you've heard me say before that there's not much out here that we can outrun. Now, you could probably outrun a dwarf mongoose if you were really sprinting, but I have had a race with one once. Long story. There's the banded mongoose called Goose that I think I've spoken about before. And Goose and I did have a race. That was largely because Goose was trying to bite my ankles more than anything else. It wasn't so much that we were engaged in a game. We were engaged in some very subtle warfare. And I was losing. I did manage to outrun her, but I was incredibly surprised at how very fast, not to disturb our little mongoose family, how incredibly fast she was. They are all around us. There's even one sitting in a tree. Oh, no. Disappear off. Hiding behind a branch. Yes, we see you. We do see you. Finds anything hidden underneath the leaf litter. Alrighty, little one, good luck with your hunting escapades. I wish you all the best. Very exciting times for the dwarf mongoose, but as I said, we're on our way from the smallest predator out here to the biggest. Let's go see what those Birminghams are up to. I'm sure they're going to be very much asleep in the heat of the day. Generally, those boys don't shift around too much. We saw that green water. We've been speaking about the bugs and the green, and then all of the groundwater that's all around us. And Katie, you were saying that the frogs must love that water. And it's incredible how the minute the first rains hit, or at least the first rains in a while, the number of different frogs that we hear. And I've heard eastern olive toads, I've heard tremolo sand frogs, we found a knocking sand frog? Yes, knocking sand frog in camp. And one of my favorites, of course, is the bushveld rain frog as well. That looks terribly grumpy. Very fat little frog with very, very short legs and a very shovel-shaped nose. Entertaining little creatures. course, we'll start to look for the foam nest frogs as well. They must pick their nest sites very carefully. I'm sure many of you who are regular viewers have seen the foam nests that hang about over waterholes around summer. Now, I haven't seen any yet while I've been on Duma, but that's because I started in the middle of winter. But if there is a lot of rain, we should be seeing them coming through. And basically what happens there is the male and the female, when they're mating, they kick their legs together and sort of build up a froth of white substance that their tadpoles hide in, and when they hatch, then they drop down into the water below. The reason I say that the rain frogs must be careful this year is because puddles, I don't think we're going to have a huge amount of rain. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'm wrong, but most people are saying we're in for a bit of a drought. And the rain frogs will have to make sure that the puddles that they build their nests above are big puddles, probably dams, or they're going to find that by the time the tadpoles hatch, there's not going to be any water for them to live in. And that does happen. A certain percentage of frog tadpoles do die just because the water source that they're in is dried up before they've had a chance to metamorphosize and get their legs and be able to move about as adults. Frogs are one of my favorite things, and it's something that's been trying to brush up on, is all the different frog calls that we hear around the place. And in the height of summer, those frog calls can be almost deafening. The interesting thing, of course, about frogs is that you get a whole number of different calls. Anything from the males advertising their territories and attracting females to distress calls when they've been grabbed by. Sometimes what does happen is they get a bit confused and a male might accidentally grab another male, at which point the frog releases a very different type of noise that causes the male frog that's done the grabbing to immediately let go and go, oops, sorry buddy, made a mistake. I'm chatting about frogs and water. We have arrived at Buffelshoek Dam. Going to find our way into the Birmingham, but let's just stop and see what the water level's like first while I chat on the Game Drive channel. Station with the Birmingham Gala for Jamie. May I join you? Copy that, that's perfect, thank you. We've got plenty to look at here. And there's the family of Egyptian geese. And how many goslings have we got today? I definitely see one. There's 2, 3, and there's 4. Okay, so phew! Managed to keep it stable at 4. And these parents are very, very good parents, but of course there's lots of threats out here. And it seems like they've gone from 7 till 4 in the last 2 weeks or so. But incredible to watch how rapidly they've grown in the last 2 weeks. All under the watchful eye of Mom and Dad, who are busy grazing the various plant material they can find in Buffelshoek. I think I'm not imagining it to say that Buffelshoek is looking that little bit more bulked out with water. It's going to take a lot more. Definitely need a lot more to bring things out and bring the dam levels back up to what they should be. Now, Pamela, you were looking at the water and saying it brings to mind mosquitoes, which yes, of course it does. You were wondering if there have been any problems with malaria so far. Not at the moment. We've been lucky so far. Generally, when you're in a reserve like this, your risk is fairly low because the mosquitoes tend to move from in areas of high population density. So a mosquito can't travel huge distances. It's really only a couple of 100 meters, maybe a kilometer at the most. And of course, they're the vectors of malaria. So you tend to get the outbreaks of malaria more around the cities and the towns, and maybe some of the townships around us. And then what might happen is if somebody goes into a town or into a village, and gets bitten there, then that's really only when you start to get the outbreaks of malaria within a lodge situation. Sorry guys, somebody's just trying to chat to me. Copy that, thank you. Of course, it's something we're always very aware of, but malaria is something that can be quickly treated if you catch it soon enough. You start to feel like you've got a cold or really bad flu and a high temperature, but without the sore throat and the runny nose generally. Maybe you're feeling a bit nauseous. That generally accompanies, or the symptoms, the main symptoms of malaria out here. Now, it's something that I've spoken about before while we watch these little goslings on their afternoon mission. That is the fact that it's interesting studies have been done into the population, the decrease in population in crocodiles throughout Africa, and the fact that that's actually led to an increase in malaria outbreaks. And the reason behind that is that crocodiles eat catfish, and catfish eat tilapia, and tilapia eat mosquito larvae. If you don't have crocodiles, then the catfish increase in population, so they eat too many tilapia, which are those tiny little fish that we see around here. Sometimes the storks catch one, and if there's no tilapia because they've all been eaten by the catfish, then they're not around to eat the mosquito larvae, and then you get those quite severe outbreaks of malaria happening around, especially towards Central Africa. But right here, we're actually pretty safe. We're in a nice low-risk malaria zone. Important to always keep an eye on that. Right, well, we've been told that we can make our way into the sighting. See if I can find us a nice way in. This morning's route was fairly tricky, and I think it might be nicer to go along the edge of the dam rather than down the dam wall and cause any extra erosion around here. I find a slightly smoother slope. You might lose me in the dip though as we head down and through. But stay with us because we should be back up and around on the other side. Down here, sure that we stay within the used tire tracks because we know that there are no lapwing nests around here. Hello goose, well done, you've done a good job with your babies, congratulations. Yes, very well done. I might just stop for one moment. I know we're making our way into Birmingham. I promise you I'm not delaying. We've got quite a nice view that will stick around for us of a tiny little three-banded plover. We very seldom manage to get too close to them. Sorry, Brian, he's just down there moving through the elephant tracks. And they're such pretty little birds. We hardly ever see them because we're always looking at the edges of the dams, and they're usually on the other side. Now apparently somewhere around here there is a nest with 2 chicks, and that was about a week ago that Scott found. I'll be keeping my eyes peeled for that. You can imagine it's difficult. I always wonder at the ground nesting birds and how amazing it is that those babies manage to survive the way that they do. Okay, let's make our way in. We can join one of the other vehicles. Wonder what these Birmingham boys have been up to. They haven't been mating with this female just yet, but she's definitely been keeping them company for quite a while now. I'm not sure if keeping them company is the right way to phrase it. She's definitely been around with them. Everybody watch heads. It is a bit of a tight squeeze in here, so for the moment we're going to settle with the view that we have, which is quite far away. I can't reposition at the moment. I'll just wait here for the moment. Have a look. Still looking very, very flat. But of course, as we all know, that can change in a moment. Now, I can't reposition just yet, and this is the best view for now. So while we are here and we wait for our chance to see them, let's head across to Brent and his herd of elephants.
Welcome back. We've caught up with a nice big breeding herd of elephants that are on the move, and it looks like they're on their way towards a water hole just across our northern boundary, so we're going to try to stick with them. The majority of the herd have moved past us, and they're definitely on a mission. You can see them walking, and there's a young, looks like, oh, there's a cow behind us as well. And there's a couple of ellies still around. One's directly behind us, so I can't move. I've got to wait for her to move. And she's obviously found something nice and sweet to eat. And she's on her move now. Okay, I'm going to go forward and try to turn around so you guys can see her. But I am hoping... Oh! Nice young bull as well. Coming up the rear. In his early 20s, would be my guess. And it looks like he is in must, so maybe a little bit older than early 20s. Just that he's this close to breeding herd. There we go, actually you can see him a bit bigger now. Oh, he's a beautiful boy. So I'd probably say 30s now, having a good look at him. We can actually see the dribble from his penile sheath. So he's in heightened. Whoa, there's even more elephants coming through, just spreading. There's probably around 25 or 30. And one of the reasons those females in the front could be on such a mission is not to get towards it, it's to get away from this guy. But let's try and follow them. This could be quite exciting. Coming through the bush. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try and move through an area. So, oh, I can smell that elephant musk smell. It's very, very strong. It's a very difficult smell to describe. Andre, how would you describe it? Musty. That's probably why it's called must. So quite often when there is a big must bull around the breeding herds, they tend to be a little bit more jumpy, a little bit more nervous. Especially in in this thick bush, and obviously we don't want to upset any of the elephants, so I'm going to move out and around. So a little bit more open here, less likely to hit a log or fall into a hole. It is wonderful to have so many elephants around at the moment. Oh, hold on, bumpy bump. Just getting that big elephant pulls back over the trees there. So I know the main access road's just ahead. So hold on, I'm just going to put a little bit more speed into this. Oh, I think the front of the herd's already got there ahead of us. Oh, bounce, bounce. And here we go. Wonderful, really big herd. Now, let's just see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I probably missed a baby or two. So there could be 21, 22 in this initial part. One's passing behind us, that's 23. (24) about to step into the road. (25) coming across the road and a bit further away. Still haven't seen that big bull yet. He's going to be right at the end. 25 across, 26 coming. Here we go. Here comes the bull. Number 27, the nice big Ellie bull who's in must. He might give us a little head shake as he goes past, but I think he's far more concerned about following females. Lovely set of ivory on him as well. Nice even tusks. And you can see the glistening inside of the back legs and the dribbling from the penal sheath. And they can lose, if I remember correctly, litres. 27's just crossed the road. I'm going to keep counting while Jeanre's on that big bull. 28. 29, 30, 31. I think we're coming towards the end of it now, and I think this could be the last elephant coming. Number 32, and it's another bull, but not in must. That's a really wonderful large herd. 32 of them in one little group. They are heading towards that waterhole. I'm just trying to think. Unfortunately, that waterhole is in a traditionally really bad signal area. I think they might be going for a big drink and maybe even possibly a swim. So let's make sure we've got all of them, 32 elephants. No more coming. I'm going to try and move around to an area where the signal's a little bit better. It still can give us a bit of problem, so I do forewarn you, but it might be worth seeing that bigger group of elephants rush down towards the water. do some low flying towards the edge of that waterhole. Let's go see what Jamie's been up to.
We've been lucky enough to reposition, and here we have a pile of cats. The Birmingham boys are pretty much exactly where I left them. One of them has found what looks to be quite the comfortable headrest. I think he's been using a pile of elephant dung as a pillow. Interesting, I saw Karula do that about a week ago or so. Now the fascinating part of the sighting, now it's not easy for me to maneuver around too much around here without disturbing them. They're right in the middle of the only open patch. Somebody is fast asleep there. Actually try and reposition. Oh no, you can see him pretty clearly. Well, that looks like a good way to spend a Tuesday afternoon. I don't know about you. Looking very comfortable there. And a pile of 5, well, a pile of 3 at the back, apart from those 2 quirky ones on the edge. What is interesting about the sighting is so far, and I have been looking, I cannot see where that female is. And I think there's a chance that she's moved off. We had this happen recently. I know Scott was in the sighting with the Birmingham boys, and the one female we didn't fully identify as to who she was or where she came from. That was up just to the north of the Juma Dam camera, and she left them right in the middle of the day. It was a hot day, and she was walking across quarantine at 11 o'clock in the morning. So it wouldn't be unprecedented for that lioness to be moving around in the heat of the day and headed off for, I wouldn't say greener pastures, but maybe for pastures with less testosterone around her. Possibly they were a little bit sleepy and didn't notice her disappearance. I mentioned this morning she hasn't been mating, so she's not in full, she definitely isn't in full estrus. All the males would be accompanying her. They court their females or protect and look after and guard their females very closely when they are in estrus, obviously to make sure nobody else has access to them. But I don't think she is in full estrus. I'm not too sure exactly what's been happening there. We can only really guess and put together what we know. They don't seem too bothered though. I know that James this morning picked up on the fact that one of them has got lots of scratches and injuries around his face. It's not this individual, although he's definitely looking very comfortable. But they apparently were fighting between the different coalition members over access to that female, so perhaps she has just come out of estrus now. I'm not too sure. Our lions are not going to disappear anywhere. Brent's got an approaching herd of elephants, so let's head across to him for a quick update on his pachyderm sighting.
So we've managed to get ahead of this incredibly beautiful herd of ellies, and now we can actually see there's probably more than 32. There's some definite small babies we would have missed. Look at the little guy there. Oh, being chastised by mom, trying to drink while on the move, and mom's having none of it. There's an even smaller baby to the right. I don't know if we're going to see them. We should see them once they get there. A couple of young bulls and cows in there. Let's try to count them again. I'll do it quietly so as not to bore you this time. You can see the ellies are in a slightly agitated state, and that is almost certainly because of that musk bull trailing them. So just to let you know, I got 27 elephants in that, including these two in that first walk by. and the rest are coming through now. Isn't this just truly, truly magnificent? One of the iconic species of Africa. So our initial count was 32. This young bull coming past us now is number 32, so there's a few more than 32. 145 so far, even, and that's without the bull who's still coming up the rear. Hello, girlie. So he might harass the herd a little bit more at the water hole because they are going to stop to drink. Oh, Jandra, just have a look at that musk bull is pushing off the other bull. See how he's angling away to make sure the other bull can't get near the herd. So he's putting himself between the herd and the other elephant bull, even though the other elephant bull's not in must. Or we might have a bit of a standoff here. Can you see the musty from there? Might chase him off. He's standing broadside, lifting his head, showing the other bull how large he is. And he looks physically bigger than the other bull. So he's just kept the other bull at bay a little bit. We're going to move again. And again, unfortunately, this isn't a traditionally patchy signal area. So if we do disappear, I do apologize. But when we get stationary again, we should have picture. It's going to be incredible. They're going to get that water walk as they get closer to the water. It's going to be interesting to see if they actually are going for the water or they're just trying to get away from this bull. There might not be any females in estrus at the moment in this herd. And look at that, walking in single file. Isn't that incredible? All we need for them is to just reach out and hold each other by the trunk to tail. Like in Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. And okay. Wait for these two to cross, and then I'm going to get us on the right side of the light. So it looks like they're completely ignoring the water and heading straight away from, oh, hello, this gentleman. Here he is, nice big bull, probably 3.5 meters at the shoulder. Absolute beauty, still in really good condition, probably, as I said, around 30 years old, and they've literally walked across this top corner of our traverse area, and they've crossed out of our traverse area. And oh, when we're downwind, we're getting that strong must smell again. And this is an incredibly large herd of elephant, and Casey's wondering, is this the largest herd of elephant in the area? Casey, what I think we've got here is we've actually got a few herds together, and you can see that in the way they move. So what happens when you do get really big groups of elephants like this in this area, it'll be a group of smaller family units that have joined up together, and you probably find it's due to the harassment of this big bull. So they've completely ignored the water hole. And then the bull he was being escorted away is about to come past us. A little bit younger, I would guess. And off he goes. So isn't that incredible? Unfortunately, I think we might have a bit of signal issue if we move from here. So I'm just waiting to see those ellies. We can just see the tops of their backs there. I was hoping they might turn around down towards the waterhole, but it looks like they're spreading through into the woodland. And it's amazing how those incredibly huge animals sort of just disappear so quickly into the bush. So there's still that last ellie bull who's coming out. You can just hear him moving through the guarri bushes, that shh, as he brush against his sides. And then you can see the rest of the herd coming out into the open or more open areas after that drainage line. Maybe they were trying to play a trick on that musk bull, go round and back to the water. It looks like they might do that. Or they could be heading north into the Magnoleti. So the boundary between the Sabi Sands and the Magnoleti is just beyond the horizon, to the north of us there, beyond those large marula trees. Oh, hear a little disagreement in the herd. Probably a youngster being chastised. And there go the elephants, and we're going to move out of this bad signal area, and while we do that, let's go see what Jamie's been up to.
Sounds like you've had an incredible time with those elephants, but we are still with our Birmingham boys, one of whom has done probably the most moving I've seen him do the entire time, which was to roll from one side onto the other. I've just spoken to Andrew, who's also made his way into the sighting, but from a different direction. And Andrew can't see the female either, so I don't think she's still here. I think she's moved off. Possibly she's been trying to move away from them for quite a while now. Although she was with them the whole time, she wasn't seen by any of the vehicles mating with the Birmingham boys, as far as I know. And that's interesting because it's something that we've seen with the Birmingham boys now. I count 3 times, there might have been more. We had the incident with the Birminghams chasing the 2 Nkuhumas off the buffalo kill with Scott and myself a while back, and behind them was a lioness that just randomly appeared, and obviously had been accompanying them. Then there was the lioness that was with Scott north of Mvubu Dam, or sorry, not north of Djuma Dam on Mvubu, very recently. And now once again, I've seen them a couple of days ago chasing that female around Torchwood. We had her very briefly. She came sprinting towards our boundary before she disappeared off. And again now at Buffelshoek Dam. This is an interesting pattern of behavior that's developing, because in most of those cases they haven't been mating. Now, I've been looking at the Birmingham boys, and of course, apart from being a notorious street gang long ago, the Birmingham boys actually are named for a different reason. And Pamela, you were wondering which Birmingham they're named after and how that works. Now, I'm sure you know that they come from the Birmingham Pride. The Birmingham Pride was a pride on a property known as Birmingham, that is to the north, which direction is that? Northwest of us, where we're sitting now. Very far away actually, but open. It's with its boundaries open across through to Manuletti and then down into the Sabi Sands and the Kruger. And the reason they're called the Birmingham Pride is because they come from a farm called Birmingham. And that name actually has an interesting story behind it. Now I'll have to double check my dates. But at some point there was, and I'm talking about probably 100 or so, maybe 150 or so years ago, there was conflict between the Mozambique border and the South African border, and exactly where that falls, which side of the Lubombo Mountains. The question was whether or not, or which side or which part of the river the boundary fell on. And that was obviously quite an important part. So the president at the time, because South Africa didn't have any properly qualified land surveyors, called for international backup and approached some international land surveyors to come and define the boundary. And while they were out here, and obviously journeys in those days, very long journey on a ship to get across the ocean and get down to South Africa, and since they were here already, it was decided that they'd also spend some time delineating the various boundaries of the different properties, so the different farms and the different, in this particular area, different mining zones around us towards Palabora and that side, which is why, because they were international, they were from Europe, they were European land surveyors, why we get names like Birmingham. There's also a Liverpool, there's an Essex farm all around Hoedspruit. We also have a Belfast, which is actually a city which you would travel past on your way up to driving from Johannesburg to the Kruger. I'm trying to think what else we have. Just take my word for it that if you drive through and along the roads around Hoedspruit, you will see lots and lots of places, all named after various European cities, possibly even places where these land surveyors were born. And so Birmingham, the name of the farm, comes from, as far as I know, the Birmingham in England. And that is the story behind it. And amazing that a piece of history that is that long ago has found its way to tell a story through 5 young male lions. I bet the land surveyors never saw that one coming when they were picking out names. This is a very relaxed bunch of lions. They are looking very, very chilled. I think I'm going to put a question to you guys, whether you'd be happy to. I'm not going to go too far away. I'm going to do a loop around and then come back to them as the sun starts to go down. Or would you rather stay? Possibly the female could show up. You never know what's going to happen in a lion's life. What would you like to do? Would you like to stay or would you like to go? You can send that through on #SafariLive, or you can email on questions@wildearth.tv. And I believe that we have to wish a young viewer, Caitlin, a very, very happy birthday. Caitlin is 6 years old and away from school today and watching Safari Live. And And it's great to... Oh, sorry, it's not your birthday, but you are 6 years old and you're away from school today. And Caitlin, you were saying that you've heard on school that lions are the strongest animal, but you don't think so. You think it is the elephant. Caitlin, you are absolutely right. It is, in fact, an elephant that is much, much stronger than even one elephant is stronger than all 5 of these lions all put together. He's just that much bigger. If a lion is... oh, I don't know, maybe just a tiny little speck to an elephant. All he'd have to do is swing his trunk and he could push a lion away. Definitely, in terms of the strongest animal out here, an elephant is by far and away the biggest and the strongest. And after that probably comes a rhino, and maybe a hippo as well, just in terms of size. And even a giraffe is probably stronger, if you were to test their strength, is probably stronger than one lion. One lion alone would really struggle to hunt a full-grown big giraffe. So there's lots of animals that are bigger and stronger. But what is true out here is that of all of the meat eaters that we get, so everything out here that hunts and eats meat, the lions are the biggest and the strongest. And that's maybe why you've heard about them at school. They are at the top of the predator hierarchy. So they, in a way, they're the kings of the predators out here. But in terms of the king of the beasts, I still think that title goes to the elephants that you had and that you saw with Brent. I think I did put it to you guys that we should either stay or go, which is what I was chatting about before. Let me know what you want to do. I'm more than happy to stay. It is entirely your choice. I always find it entertaining to sit with them and just watch the way that they will pile together quite often to enjoy the shade rather than spreading out and around. Sorry guys, I think Andrew's actually calling me on the Game Drive channel. Yeah, Andrew, standing by. Nope, wasn't me. Somebody called Billy, which sounds a lot like Jamie when you hear it on the Game Drive channel. But yes, it's interesting the way that they all pile together and keep each other warm, despite the fact that there's plenty of shade around here. They could spread out. It's all part of that bonding and being a social creature that lions have evolved to be. Now, there's a lot of discussion about why lions are social creatures and why leopards are solitary and how it is that different systems like that evolve. There's still a lot of debate, and a lot of people are saying that it's not really to do with reproductive success, although certainly for male lion coalitions like this one it helps. But mostly it's thought that it's a way of helping out and protecting with cubs. And it's all connected to the fact that female lions very often come into estrus at the same time and will allosuckle, so they'll feed a cub that isn't their own. Get that extra added protection from the entire pride as a way of helping keep cubs safe. But of course then the question becomes, why have wild dogs evolved to reproduce? They're also social creatures. Why have they evolved to live in a pack, but only one female, maybe 2, will breed at any point in time? That's not a question I have an answer to. It's the same question you could raise with hyenas as well, but it is a very interesting point of view. I wonder if... No, I think that's the realms of pure guesswork and fantasy, so I'll stop there. Now, the Birmingham boys at the moment are almost completely unchallenged in the area that they're in around Djuma, Buffelshoek. Buffelshoek, as far as I know, they haven't had any serious run-ins with the Salatis since they took over here. The Salati males are 2 big males up in the north. Really beautiful boys. We've only ever, well, I've certainly only ever seen them once. But for the moment, the Birminghams remain unchallenged. But that could be something that isn't going to be the case forever, because we're open to 2.7 million hectares worth of wild area, challenges could come from any direction. Well, we know that these boys have covered an enormous distance only to establish themselves here. There's nothing that says that other males in other areas couldn't do exactly the same thing and move in, say, all the way from the western or the western boundary of Kruger, and poke their noses in and come and see if there's any challenges that they can make. And that, of course, is why the females around here go into false estrus straight after a takeover. And having spoken about that female and the possibility of false estrus, we think it's a Styx female. And Gemma, you wanted to know how many are left of the Styx pride. Gemma, as far as I know, most of the Styx females have survived. One of them did die. It was a sub-adult female, as far as I know. Reports are difficult because identifying a dead lion can be tricky as well. And sometimes they go missing for weeks on end only to reappear. But from what I know, the 2 young females are still fine. And then there are 2 adult or 3 slightly older adult females moving around Hoffman's area, Little Gowrie area. But I've never encountered those females before, so it's difficult for me to clarify or even to say if I would recognize them in a brief sighting. I've only ever encountered the 2 young females that had the cubs, and not since the Birmingham takeover. Oh, sorry, that's not true. I did see one of the older females when she was mating with Hairy Belly, but that was months ago. I haven't heard any further updates about the Styx pride, and I definitely don't think there have been any deaths since that initial spate during the start of the takeover. The thing about the Styx pride is that it was, even before the takeover by the Birmingham boys, they were spread out. They had split away from each other. And from what I could understand, the 2 young females who had the young cubs, they were pretty much established as being on their own. But the rest of that pride sometimes split into 2 and sometimes came back together again. It was always fairly difficult to keep track of them, since we didn't really get to see them all that often. Now what I might do, since I have the opportunity, is see if we can't reposition, maybe have a look at that male who had the injuries around his face. I think he must be one of the ones bundled into that, what can only be a warm and very fluffy pile of lions. We're chatting a little bit about various lions of the area. Paula, you wanted to know if I have any updates on Junior. Paula, the answer is yes. I don't know if you mean since the update that came through about 2 days ago. Seems as though Junior is on Mala Mala on his own, and that he had managed to kill a small buffalo all by himself. So he's done very well, Paula. He's actually seems to be surviving. We knew it was a matter of time before he separated off from his pride, and he comes and goes every now and again on his own. And with the Birmingham boys up here, he probably felt it was much safer. Everybody duck. Probably thought it was much safer to make himself scarce. So Paula, he's around Mala Mala at the moment, but he is hunting and fending for himself. There were rumors that he was seen with another young male, but I am calling them just rumors at this stage, and until I can be absolutely sure that that is confirmed, I'm not going to tell you that that is a definite scenario. It would be very nice for Junior, and it does happen. Alrighty, so we're getting lots of feedback. Some people saying stay, some people saying go. I'm happy to spend a bit more time with him. Then do a short loop around Buffelshoek. What I really don't want to do is something that I did on Arathusa, which was to leave the Birmingham boys fast asleep, and we returned back that evening and they'd vanished. And I couldn't find them again. So I definitely don't want to have a repeat of that particular scenario. Hello boys. Big pile of lions. He's looking absolutely fine, no injuries there apart from a couple of old scratches. And the male that did have the scratches around his eye and his floppy ear, it was on his right side. Can't manage to see the rest of them. I'm trying to look at the same time and see if I see a lioness lying in the shade, but I think it's safe to say she's disappeared off. One foot sticking up in the air. And one very comfortable lion. It always amazes me that they decide to lie head to bottom, because surely the smell cannot be all that appealing. You'd think that they'd sort of lie with their heads in a line or something, but obviously that doesn't bother the lions too much. Now, just to finish up our spate of updates on the lions of the area, Nikunj, you mentioned that one of the young lions from the Salala Pride had gone missing about 2 weeks ago. And you're wondering if I have an update. I actually have a wonderful update on that front. I was convinced that that young male had been killed, and I'm really, really happy to say that he hasn't been. He is alive and well, and in fact reunited with the rest of the pride on Londolozi. Not only that, but they were also seen with the 2 older females from the Salala Pride that were busy mating with the Matimba males when we saw the breakaway group. So fantastic news. I thought that with his injury, I really honestly thought that he was probably going to have died. He would have been caught by the Birmingham boys. He had, if you remember, he had that big cut along the edge of his bottom. It looked very painful, and it was when I first saw him. That was with Brian actually. When I first saw him, they were looking very thin, and he was struggling to keep up with the rest of the pride. But I'm thrilled to say I was completely wrong. He is absolutely fine. His wound is healing up. Goes to show just how much more resilient the animals out here are. And I'm going to go one more time and loop around, and we'll get another view of them from the opposite side. Partly because at the moment I can't really look at you without looking straight into the blazing sun and squinting at you. Watch it. A very comfortable looking lion. You can see the bottom bits of his mane are all muddy and stuck together, probably from having a drink at Buffelshoek. Looking a little bit less well groomed than normal. It always amazes me though that the manes of male lions don't look more matted than they do. That is hugely dignified, that particular pose. I don't know, there's a caption in that somewhere. I'm not sure if you guys can screenshot it and think of an interesting line for that. There's definitely a caption. very sleepy looking Birminghams. Right, now I think I'm going to do a loop around Buffelshoek Dam and then return back as it starts to get a bit darker and a bit cooler. The wind's already starting to take the edge off the temperature, and while I do that, let's head across to Brent and see what he's been up to while we've been with our lions.
So, you can see we've got a white-backed vulture in a knobthorn tree. We've come to the area where there's a few vultures' nests. I was hoping if we could have a little perusal while we have the small camera on, or say the small camera, a different camera on the vehicle, while our main camera's in for repairs, and this one's got that super zoom quality, so great for looking at birds. But unfortunately that rain has caused the trees to sprout leaves, and that is going to make it quite difficult to actually see into the nest this time. But the reason I am sitting here on our western boundary, with Arethusa's western boundary, is the wild dogs passed through here about 5 minutes ago. Unfortunately, they literally spent less than 3 minutes in our Travis area before disappearing back to the west. But if anyone knows me, I love wild dogs a lot, and it's always worth that half chance that you might find them. And always good to catch up with the vultures. And I mean, to get around here, you can't even really see the nest. The leaves have grown so quickly. But the wonderful thing about wild dogs is they could chase something back in this direction. So, good to be in the area, just in case. I hear a vehicle in the bush to the west of me. Maybe it's following the wild dogs. Sounds a little bit far. But this lovely, lovely afternoon light. The bush is really crisp and clear after the rain. No dust in the sky, or little dust in the sky. So hopefully we'll find something really fantastic to put into this light. It is just magnificent light at the moment. Always have a sort of half look as we go under there in case the bomb bay doors are open. So I do have to go through a little dip here. So there might be a little bit of signal breakup, so just bear with me, I'll be through it shortly. So we're just going to get through this little dip here quickly. Safari was a little bit quiet. We had a discussion about some African experience, and we spoke about the man who walked from Cape Town to Cairo. What is that? And Alan was Ewart Grogan. For the love, her dad was from a very well-to-do family, and basically said, the only way, my boy, for you to marry my daughter is if you walk from Cape Town to Cairo. Ha ha ha, as a joke. So Grogan, being of very much a single mind, did it. and married his daughter and became quite a prominent figure in colonial Kenya after that. Now it's a very tatty looking flower there, but a very pretty flower. And I'm just going to go have a quick look at it. I suspected as much. One of my favorites. You're going to be a little bit careful. You don't want to break the sap from there. The sap can actually cause quite a bit of skin irritation. But if we have a look at that wonderful sort of white and pink, it's a crinum lily, and this particular one is called a candy-striped crinum. This one is past its prime, I'm afraid, and they only flower for a very few days after the rain, and hopefully we will be able to find some more. You see, there is still one in the center there that hasn't opened, and then this one has completely expired already. So, candy-striped crinum. For those of you who like flowers, I absolutely adore them. And it has been quite a tough flower season so far with the lack of rain, but hopefully this little bit of rain will bring out the wild flowers. Sorry guys, I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel, trying to see if there's any updates on those wild dogs. So, you never know what. So I was thinking I haven't visited the Arathusa waterhole since I've been back from leave, so I'm going to slowly make my way towards there, see what's been going on in that. Yeah. Seems to be very little general game around. And one has to wonder if that's because of the dogs being around. Oh, Laura, about my favorite small it is, which are frogs and toads. Unfortunately, Jamie explain the difference, and we can ask Jamie to show you. Sorry about that, there's a bit of a fuzzy spot in the signal there. And Laura was asking, what is the difference between frog and toads? And I said, unfortunately, I don't have my frog book with me. Jamie has got it this evening, but I'll explain the difference, and maybe we can get Jamie to show you a picture. So the main difference between frogs and toads is that frogs hold a gland, have a gland just behind their... Oh, Andre is spotted. Oh, well spotted. Hopefully it hangs around. Looks to be a little red-crested quahan. Definitely disappearing. And just forward a bit. Try see if we can spot it again. Oh, it's just through that. You see it? There's one there. Or is that a stick? Unfortunately, it has done a disappearing act, but there was a quahan there. But sorry, Laura, back to your question. So behind a frog's eyes, they've got this really raised little patch, and it's actually a gland, and it's called a bufo gland. So you'll find most of the true toads, the beginning of their scientific name is bufo. And what they do is they release a toxin there that's called a bufotoxin. Any of you who have cats and dogs that like to play with frogs or bite frogs, and you watch they start foaming at the mouth, that is from that toxic gland on behind their eyes. It probably tastes completely vile, but won't actually kill your pet, so don't worry about that. And frogs lack that gland, so that is the main difference between frogs and toads. And when we go back to Jamie, I'm sure we just ask her and she can show you a nice picture, and you can see those bufo glands on the back of a toad's head very carefully. So often a lot of people think toads have a much more knobbly, sort of warty skin in some cases, but there are quite a lot of frogs. A lot of your sand frogs also have those warty protrusions on their back. So it is not only toads that have those warts, certain frog species do as well. It's just such beautiful light, but there's no animals to put in it. So I think we'll meander past the waterhole, and if nothing, I think we'll start heading back towards Djuma, and maybe we can catch Karula before the sun goes down. Amazing how quiet it is here. And it's incredible how different areas are really busy at certain times and others aren't. This light's so wonderful. I don't think, from what I can hear on the radio, there's not much happening on Arethusa. Nothing really around the waterhole. So I think let's try head back towards Karula while we've still got this wonderful late evening light. Calling. Yellow-eyed canary more than likely, but quite far in the distance. Some tracks of a herd of elephant heading to the east. Speaking about frogs, Ravi's noted that on the Djuma dam cam that the frogs are extremely loud and they seem to increase in crescendo after the rainfall. Most definitely, Ravi, and I have planned, I've been waiting for a bit of rain because we're going to get a few more species. Normally I would be out in the mud doing some frogging, but unfortunately Pete, the pond hippo, makes frogging a little bit risky these days. But what we can definitely do, we'll see how it goes tonight, how many species I can hear calling, and maybe we'll do a little segment just on the frog calls after dark tonight. So we're starting to head now back east. The wild dogs have headed further to the west, so we're going to make our way back towards Karula. So one of our long-time viewers, Penny, who's from South Africa, there's a particular species of frog we have here called a guttural toad, sorry, not frog, called a guttural toad. And she said she actually had to fill in her garden pond because the noise was too much. They removed 56 toads from her little garden pond. Well, Penny, I actually quite like the sound of a guttural toad, and quite often when I'm traveling, especially when I'm overseas or in Johannesburg, I will actually put on the sounds of frogs to go to sleep rather than the screeching of car brakes and howl of police sirens. So while we shoot towards Karula, we're going to go see Jamie, who's got the frog book out to show you the difference between frogs and toads.
Now, to continue on with our answer to, I believe, Laura's question about frogs and toads. Now, the interesting thing is that the term frogs, the actual frog-toad distinction, is quite an old-fashioned and misunderstood term. Now, frogs all fall into one huge order known as the Anura order that's divided into about 32 different groups, and about 13 of those occur in South Africa. One of those groups, so one of those family groups, is the toads. So the, what are they called again? The Bufo family, the Bufidae family. That's the toad family. Now, I know that Brent was chatting a lot to you about the differences of toads, so I'll find a nice picture that I've marked somewhere in my book here. I used a blade of grass, but I feel like that might have been a terrible error in my ways, because there we go, that's what I was looking for. Typical toads. Now, he spoke to you about, let's focus in here, about the glands that they have behind the eyes, the parotoid glands that excrete a toxic substance. Now, the interesting thing, if we look at them, they have short, squat bodies and wart-like substances all over their skin, as well as those glands around the back of their eyes. And that's all features of the toad family, but it's not exclusive to them. Now, the interesting things about toads is that essentially they are actually frogs. So there are types of frogs that also have that secretory ability, as well as the fact that they have some other frogs, for example the puddle frog, also has warts along its skin. So it's a difficult one, but typically short, squat bodies, quite slender legs, and warty skin with a parotoid gland makes it a toad in the frog family, if that makes sense. Now, a little bit about the distinction, and yes, I accidentally may or may not have not stolen. I didn't steal Brent's frog book. I just borrowed it and kind of forgot to give it back. Actually, I rescued it. Let's be honest, I rescued it out of the rain and unfolded all of the wet pages after our big storm on Sunday. So I don't feel too much in the way of guilt in that respect. I'm just doing a quick loop around onto Cheetah line, see if there's any sign of where that lioness may have moved off to. He hasn't come south from Buffelshoek Dam, which leaves Torchwood, which seems the most likely place where she would have gone, which is off to the east of us. And I'm going to cut across there in a moment and see if maybe her tracks pop out there. And if she does head across into Torchwood, I think that's quite a good indication that it is a Styx female, or maybe at a stretch a Talamati female, rather than an Nkuhuma lioness. And the reason I say at a stretch a Talamati female rather than an Nkuhuma lioness. And the reason I say that is, as far as I know, the Nkuhumas have been moving around on Buffelshoek, so to the north, and they're a bit to the west of lions, and wondering whether or not there are any white lions in this area. Something I discussed with the school group yesterday, or no, it was this morning, sorry, the day's just been quite long. DJ, you were wondering, do we get any white lions? The famous white lions of the Southern Africa region are found in the Timbavati region. Now, Timbavati is off to the northwest of us, but it is an area that is connected to and open to As you know, there's the huge Kruger Park that is off to the east of us, an enormous open expanse, and there's lots of different other concessions around the border of Kruger that all have their boundaries open, so there's no fences in between us. So although the white lion genetics are primarily based around the Timbavati, there is always a chance that it could pop up around here. It's a naturally occurring recessive gene, so it's rare. And it's recessive, so you have to have two parents mate that are carriers. Plus it has to, through that combination of mitosis and meiosis that happens in the formation of reproductive cells, you have to get that exact right combination. And generally that percentage with two recessive alleles, if we simplify it completely, means that even with two parents carrying the white lion gene, you've got a maybe 25% chance of one, so 1 in 4 of the offspring will be white lion. But what's so interesting about that is the Timbavati region is quite in the far western areas of our greater Kruger concession. But very recently I went across and visited with Brent while I was on leave. We went across to Singita, which is right on the eastern side of the Kruger boundary, right on the Mozambique border. And they've just had 2 white lion cubs pop out of a pride that they've never seen white lion genes in before. And it's so interesting the way that eventually you get that recessive gene coming through in those different phenotypes, the really rare phenotypes, popping up every now and again unexpectedly. So we might say because we're not in the Timbavati we don't get those white lions, but that's not true. We could. We definitely could. It could pop up one day unexpectedly, and who knows? The Birmingham boys come from an area fairly close to the Timbavati region. They could be carriers of that gene. Maybe one of the 6 females is also a carrier. We could have white lion cubs. It's rare, but it's not unheard of. And of course, the reason that it is so rare is that those individuals are at a slight disadvantage. So we saw that Steenbok earlier, how clearly white shows up in the bush. You can imagine that a white lion, the process works in a very similar way. It's not that they lack all pigment, but they lack most pigment, which is what gives them the blue eyes. It's not albinism, so they're not completely lacking in any kind of pigment. Still fascinating to think about, and the study of genetics to me is one of the most incredible things out here. And the clever ways that nature has of making sure that everything stays fresh and that no inbreeding occurs, or at least very little inbreeding occurs, in a nice big natural area. So keeping an eye out for this female's tracks. I want to see if she's popped back across into Torchwood. And of course keeping an eye out for the female herself. She might be slowly trying to sidle away from the Birminghams whilst they're all asleep. It's something that I have read about, and I don't know if that's the case here, but I have heard of situations where male lions, when they first start taking over coalitions, when they do meet up with the prides that are under their control, that even with females not in estrus, they might bully a lioness into staying with them. Every time she tries to leave, they might chase after her and make her stay with them for a while until they realize that she's not in estrus, she's not coming into estrus, and they just get bored and let her leave. And I'm starting to wonder whether that isn't a possible explanation behind the pattern that we're seeing with the Birmingham boys, where they're with one female exclusively and yet don't seem to be mating with her. I wonder if they're still just a little bit too young and not quite aware of how the whole process works out for them. The wind is picking up. It's actually starting to get a bit chilly. I might try and put my jacket on at the same time as driving, which could potentially end in a tree. We'll hope not. I'll try not to. Haha, it's very smooth. missed him. Spotted him just in time. Now Barbara, you've put your finger on it exactly. Now hold on, I must get this the right way around. All toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads. Exactly, that's exactly what I was trying to say. In terms of their babies and tadpoles, what do they feed on? It depends on the species of frog, but for the most part they've got plenty of access to the algae in the area that they can feed on, as well as any tiny little insects that might, you know, the really, really tiny water skippers or something like that, probably get gobbled up by tadpoles as well. That's what they're feeding on while they're building up to that big change that they make. Frogs are fascinating creatures, and they're actually very important and a vital indicator of the health of a natural ecosystem. And that's mainly because their skins are so thin and so sensitive to any kind of pollutant changes or anything like that within water. A lot of scientists are looking at studying frogs in terms of helping them work out whether or not a water system is a healthy water system or whether it's been polluted in some way. They're usually your first indicator that something is wrong. Obviously, along with fish as well, frogs in particular tend to be high sensitive to those changes. Sign of her tracks popping out there. I wonder where this girl disappeared off to. She's pulled a very sneaky maneuver here. My favorite roads to drive down. What a beautiful evening it's turned out to be. This little cut line where we can look across the expanse we get to move around in and enjoy. Amazing to feel how the temperature's dropping as I'm driving down this hill. Interesting point raised by PK. We talked a little bit about the genetics behind white lions. PK, you're saying 2 white lions could have cubs that are not white. I need to think about this for a second. So they'd have normal colored cubs. I think that white lion genetics are a little bit more complicated than I'm making them out to be. But if it comes from 2 white lion parents, I think that you've got 100% chance of having white lion cubs. And the reason I say that is that parent can only have that recessive allele. Otherwise, if it carried the genes for a normal baby or a normal colored baby, it would be normal colored itself. That's the way dominant and recessive genes work. If you've got any of the dominant genes present, they sort of overrun the recessive gene. Now, unless white lions are a bit more complicated than that, I think if you get 2 white lion parents breeding, you're guaranteed to have white lion offspring. But if you've got 1 normal colored parent but with a recessive allele, so a recessive part of that gene, and then 1 white colored parent, then your chances of having a white lion baby increases. It's a little bit complicated. It's something that we used to do with squares, where we used to work it all out in biology. It's quite difficult to do in my head, and I don't remember the percentages straight away off the top of my head, but it's somewhere around there, and that makes sense to me. It's recessive alleles, you have to only carry those genes. And as the sun makes its way down and it gets a little bit cooler, I want to do a quick loop back to the Birmingham boys, and while I do, I believe that Brent has a beautiful sun to show you.
There we go, a Karula and the sunset. Not quite the sunset shot we were hoping for, but nonetheless, oh, at least she lifted her head for us. Well, what she spotted? Is there a hyena on the way? She definitely looked up quite quickly there. I can't see anything, but she is intently staring at something. What have you spotted, madam? I'll just grab my binoculars. So we're the only ones here, aren't we spoilt? But there is a game drive having drinks not too far away on quarantine, but well out of sight of Karula. Look at that, the African sun setting, and it's very, very different from what it would have been a few days ago with all the dust. It's far more yellow. And we did promise you guys a fireside chat, weather depending, but unfortunately I'm just going to move the vehicle slightly to show you why there is no fireside chat this evening. So, if we go like this, and we should see the elephant bone from our sunrise fireside chat and the tent that's been set up for Big Cat Week, and then from there we go down towards Lady Karula. So obviously she's got a kill in the tree, we don't want to disturb her, and that's why we won't be having a fireside chat this evening, as it's possible we might disturb her. So there's another game drive vehicle that's just arrived to join us, so if you're hearing that noise coming in, don't worry about it. Hello, hello. Oh, the tent, it's for Big Cat Week. It'll be one of our studios for Big Cat Week for National Geographic, so there'll be one of the presenters stationed in there. They're asking about the tent. So now that we've showed you where the fireside chat site is, we're just going to move the vehicle around and try and get a view of Karula's beautiful visage. Back on quarantine. There we go. You can see her face nicely now, even though there might be one or two little grass stalks in the way, and hopefully you'll be able to see that very distinctive spot pattern that's made. It almost spells wow between her eyes, and the capital W at the beginning is the most visible of the letters. Of course you need a bit of imagination, but what would life be without any? She keeps looking back that direction. I wonder if she can hear something we can't. And you can hear the cacophony of the evening bird chorus just starting to build up. Crested Franklin, some doves, and obviously, of course, as soon as I mention it, they all go quite quiet. So guys, chatting about Big Cat Week, we've got a few of the drone tests going on. We'll be starting bushwalk again shortly. So we're going to show you what the drone's seeing. So looking towards the sunset and having a look at the Drakensberg Mountains. And so we're going to go see what the drone has got to show us now. So we're looking at the sunset now, and you can just see the Drakensberg Mountains in the distance, and you can see Quarantine. You might just be able to make out our little vehicles as specks next to Karula, and so we really high. We're doing a 360 swivel at the moment. We can see all the little different game paths, the little 2-tracks roads we use, and you can see how green it is compared to a few months ago when the last Nat Geo shows were. And really great to have the drone up and running. Andrew is drone squadron commander, so he's piloting the drone, so he's having a whale of a time, I'm sure. He takes his droning very seriously. He's even got a special drone hat that he wears. He looks quite ridiculous, but then Andrew always looks quite ridiculous. And we're just going to do one last drone before we come back to Karula. And from high on the sky, anything there. Now, we did see a hyena come through here last night on the sunset safari, but it hasn't made an appearance again. I think it realized that the kill was too high in the tree, but it won't stop them coming back to check. This area has a lot of hyenas in it. So there's quite a discussion about certain things like this, and Diane in Michigan's asking a very interesting question that has been discussed heavily amongst guides probably for the last, or as long as there's been a safari industry. And is wondering, do we think that these individual animals actually recognize us, or are a lot of the viewers sort of giving the animals human attributes and sort of what's the word I'm looking for? I've gone blank now. Tongue-tied. Okay, but everyone I think gets the gist of what I'm saying. Well, even in our own camp, there's people who sit on different sides. I've been lucky enough that I've grown up in the bush, and I've also got a father who's got an incredible amount of experience and is an animal scientist by training. I don't believe these animals recognize us individually, and especially not with the vehicles and when we're in the vehicles and stuff, and especially not on foot. I think one thing that might be a bit different is elephants, and especially when you are on foot. I definitely, and then again, I'm still not 100% sure. I think it's probably more how you speak, your tone of voice, and how you calm, how you move around the animals. I personally don't think the animals recognize us individually. I'm probably going to get a little bit of trouble from some of our viewers who are going to disagree with me heartily, but even so, between the guides, it's an often discussed topic. But yeah, myself, I think they think we're vehicles. I think they smell a lot of diesel and whatnot, and I think when they do seem to be staring straight into our souls, it's more the movement, slight movement and stuff, and their eyes don't work the same way as ours, and they aren't able to pick up that detail that we can, and I think it's the slight bit of movements that attract their attention. Well, I'm sure this is going to cause quite a conversation on Twitter. So, and as I said, everyone's welcome to their own opinions. Just in my experience, from what I've seen in 32 years of living in the bush, but it's probably 25, 26 years of remembering most of it, I can't really say that an animal recognizes me, or specifically the wild ones we see out on the drive. Oh, while the lines are up and moving, let's go straight to Jamie.
I'm trying to duck my head down. We've just arrived at the perfect moment. As we arrived, they started yawning to get up. And I wonder where these males are off to now. It's amazing that it timed itself so perfectly, and it was like they had some kind of unspoken communication. And I think they're up and about. They are definitely hungry. Oh my word, hello boy. Walking pretty much on top of the tire. Look at them all going to sniff that area. What are they looking for? That's where the female was lying before. It's difficult to see, but they're all phlegm and grimacing as well. Drawing the scent up, snarling their lips back to draw the scent up into that organ of Jacobson at the top of their mouths. There, that one might do it. Now, I just want to get hold of Peter, who is back, and he was just with us a moment ago. He left as they started to get up and move, and he did ask me to call him back in. Look at them all crowded round there. Peter for Jamie. Peter, 3 of these Madodas have got up. They're all sniffing around a tree. Looks like they're going to go mobile. I'll let you know, but at the moment it looks like they're going north, away from the dam though. There's some more phlegm and grimacing. What? This is so interesting. Now, this morning when you were with James, if you were watching, you would have seen all of them all of a sudden start to sniff and phlegm and grimace, and then start to scent mark. And they're doing it again. I wonder if they're going to start marking and urine spraying, or if they phlegm and grimacing at their own smells. Really interesting behavior to see. Or maybe there were other male lions that made their way across to Buffelshoek. There you go. Perfect example. That is where the female was lying. I'm just going to hop onto the game drive channel. Somebody is trying to call me. Wow. Impressive. Go ahead, Tom. It looked like they were going to go mobile north, but they've changed direction and are now going south, but I'll let you know. They're moving all about here. Yeah, that's affirmative. No problem, Tom. Copy that, that's perfect. I think they're just gonna Lalapanzi again. Let's just see what it is. What you going to do, boys? Where are you going to go? Once we get a good view, then I'm going to answer Nathaniel's question, but there is, I think, no, I'll give it a moment. I think somebody was trying to call me on the Game Drive channel. What are you lions up to? The other one's starting to yawn as well, and that's usually a good indication that he's going to stand up. Yep, there's the foot licking. And generally big cats, when they start to yawn and lick their feet, and they are about to get up and move. He's done both of those things, so let's see if he does that. Come on, boy. You've got to prove me right here. That was very inconsiderate of you. Or are you just not quite ready? Is it quite a long... I suppose after a long day of sleeping, it takes quite the energy to drag yourself up and off. Just trying to keep an eye in every which direction. Okay, copy that. Okay, well, we've got a special surprise lined up for you. I believe that Peter Pretorius would like to say hello to all of you guys, so let's hold on one moment. I think he also has some Nat Geo guests with him as well. What I'm going to do is back up a little bit so we can see. Get him a chance to watch these incredible lions as they move through. There's that stump. There's a stump somewhere. I don't want to find it with my wheels. Here we go.
Awesome.
Hello. Yes.
In your lives, you're looking at the light.
Yes.
Hello everyone. Just a quick afternoon hello, and
Jamie.
I'm going to turn this down. I'm not used to having not secret comms. My name is Peter, if you're new on Drive, so I just wanted to say hello to you. If you've been with us before, I'm very excited. So I just wanted to say hello to you. If you've been with us before, I'm very excited to be back. I arrived this afternoon. Great Mr. Graham Wallington behind us, and we've got three fantastic guests with us, and William the Tracker in the back. Molly, Jason,
just stand by,
Nick.
James. I'll be with you now.
We'll tell you a little bit more about them over the next couple of days. For now, I'm just going to say that they're great people. I flew down with them, so we've gotten time to know each other. And they're ecstatic. Two of them, it's their first time in Africa, so they're loving this. We've seen Karula, we've seen this beautiful lion, so great to have them visiting. They're also journalists, two of them, so there might be one or two stories coming out of this, but we'll tell you a bit more. For now, I just want to say hello. I'm super happy to be here. I'm going to be here all the way through Big Cat Week, and just really happy to be back with Graham and Jamie, Brian behind the camera, the whole crew back at camp. So happy to be here and look forward to the next couple of weeks in the bush with you. We're going to move along. You enjoy the lions. The other vehicles want to have a look, so we're going to give you a chance, and we'll tell you a bit more about these guys over the next while, and they'll tell you a bit more about us as well over the next while. So let's go. Look around. I'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Welcome back. It's wonderful to have you.
Back. Thank you, Jamie. enjoy. I want to make some space sections on his way.
Yeah, that's affirmative. They
Cheers,
just
you
got
too.
a pansy now. They're just moving around a bit. So exciting, and I'm sure you're all thrilled to see Peter back out and about and looking forward to your time spent with him. We're so lucky to have incredible people coming around and through our doors every day. Let's see what these Birmingham boys have been up to. Now, one thing I want to do is just get hold of one of the other vehicles, get in contact with him. Try and find Brian a nice position without driving too close to one of the boys. Let me try shift that way rather. Find my way back amongst the monkey orange. Right there, Brian. Now, I wanted to just see if I could spot the male with the injured eye. I can't see him, and I don't want to sit too much in this lion's space. I just want to move past him. He is nice and relaxed. All of them are licking their paws. I think that was the preamble. Oh, now apparently Karula's up to something, so whilst I reposition, let's head across to him.
So guys, Karula just got up. I'm hoping she's going to climb the tree, so we're just going to try to get into position. A bit of scent marking and the evening ablutions. I love it how leopards, before they climb trees, they sort of stare into the branches. Especially when they got killed, it's almost like they're checking it's still there. Just that little glance up. There we go. Get ready. Bit of yawn. Sorry guys, just gonna be on the radio for a second. Yeah, Tax, I'm the only station here, make your way. So, screenshot guys, get ready. She's about to leap. I'm hoping she's about to leap. She could prove me completely wrong and go back to sleep, but she is acting like she is about to climb the tree. Isn't she absolutely gorgeous, the Queen of Juma? Looks like she's building up with those big bellies. There we go. So quick. Let's just move around. So graceful and agile. I'm just going to try to get the spot back in a good spot. It looks like it took so much effort with that full belly that she's now taking a break before going higher. You can see that wonderful sky behind her. Oh, looks like she might be preparing, oh big yawn, to make the next leap. There we go. Just going to see where she settles, and we're probably going to have to move again. Let's just go around. How's that for you, Jean-Andre? Look forward. And we might have to move around to the other side of the tree. Looks like she is concentrating her feeding on that side, so let's go around. Hopefully her head isn't completely covered by that broken limb of the ebony tree. Oh. Murphy's Law, madam. Oh, she looks like she might. If she gets a little bit more comfortable, we're going to have to move back to the position we've just come from. But I think it's going to be obscured again by the tree. Can't see exactly what she's eating. She's unlikely should be eating the leg. I think she's actually picked off a piece of meat that she's now feeding on. So guys, just on the radio quickly. I'm here, Tuck's making his way, space for one. Let's just try to sneak around, see if we can get a slightly better view. We'll get the rest of my face there. So, on the subject of female leopards, Naomi would like to know when was the last time we saw Kwatile. I'm not sure if she was seen while I was away, but the last time I saw Kwatile was months ago. I know she has made a few appearances while I've been away, but I haven't seen her. Jean-Andre, have you seen Kwatile recently?
Last time mate went to Ghana, probably 5 or 6 weeks ago.
So 5-6 weeks ago, probably the last time she was seen, mating with Tingana. don't know if you guys are able to hear the bones crunching. As I said that, it seems she got onto a softer piece of meat. So it's amazing how fast these wild animals, specifically the cats, are able to digest meat. I mean, she's eating a couple of kilograms in a sitting and digesting fast enough that within a couple of hours she's able to feed again. So as we watch her feeding now, she closes her eyes quite frequently, and Barbara is wondering why do they do that. Well, Barbara, they're not completely closed. If you have a look, you can just catch the glint of the spotlight off her eyes every now and then. I mean, she does close them, but not all the time. She does have them open quite a fair bit. As to why they would close their eyes when they're feeding, I'm not sure. And I know lions definitely don't close their eyes when they're feeding. It's possible that in this situation she's already quite full. She's sort of just topping up and quite tired, but the only other reason could be especially when going into some more finicky bits of the carcass where there could be some sharp bones, it could be to protect her eyes. But even there, where it looks like they're closed, they're not actually. There is a slight slit open. They might just close them a little bit to protect in case there are any protruding bones. So we're sitting here as the sun is set, right at the last light of the evening. And Annie Brato, a very warm welcome to you, Annie, who's a new viewer. Great to have you with us. I hope you've been enjoying the safari so far. Annie would like to know whether we are safe in the dark next to a leopard. Annie, we are. This particular leopard has grown up with vehicles around it and is completely habituated to the vehicles. Also, the vehicle is not like being a person. It smells of petrol and oil, and they cannot really see the upright or bipedal figure of man, which they have an instinctive response to. And so we are completely safe where we are, as long as we are very respectful. And going to try something while Tax is here, see what it looks like with the sideline. Bit of a different angle, quite cool with the sort of lines being far more prominent, and especially with the shadows. Right. I'll pop our light back on now. And give you an idea exactly where we are. This kill's almost halfway between our two camps and no more than about 150 meters from final control. You can see her getting stuck into the carcass there, using her premolars and molars. And when you see when she turns her head to the side, she's using them as a cutting instrument to slice through the meat, whereas her canines and incisors are more for plucking. And you see how she turns her head to use those teeth. And have an incredible array of tendons and incredibly strong muscles that enables them to eat through that raw meat and bone. So there's still quite a lot of meat left on this carcass, and I think she's definitely going to be here tomorrow morning as well, and possibly even tomorrow night. And it's really wonderful for her to have such a big meal, and also for us to have such a lovely stable sighting. A nice big meal like this, we know she's going to be around 3 or 4 days. Lovely evening breeze blowing through. You might be able to see the leaves moving slightly, and the nocturnal insects are starting to come out in force after the rain. You can hear some crickets, some cicadas. In the distance, I'm not sure if you guys are able to hear it, there's sort of a wah, wah. That's a grey tree frog or foam nest frog calling. There we go, she's getting into some nice muscular meat there. It's very difficult to see what angle or what part it is, but from where I'm sitting I would guess it's probably that large shoulder muscle of that impala ewe. So leopards are very adept climbers, as we can see, and I mean, and they're incredibly able to hoist a prey, sometimes very close to their own body weight, up a tree. And Chris is wondering if I've ever seen a leopard fall out of a tree while I've been watching. I have, Chris, for a couple of different reasons. I've seen it happen more than once. I've seen two sub-adults, so probably around 7-8 months old, having a huge game in a really big jackleberry, probably about 9-10 kilometers from here on the edge of the Sand River. And they were jumping from branch to branch, chasing each other in the tree. And the young male jumped on a branch that wasn't quite strong enough. And he came tumbling out, and let's just say he didn't quite land on his feet. Didn't hurt himself, but did land in quite a pile. And the only time I've seen an adult fall out of a tree was a similar situation. A female up in a tree, quite a precarious tree, and a male charged in to steal her kill. And she tried to get clear, but she fell. Again, she didn't hurt herself. But there was some incredible footage caught at Singita, and of a female leopard that both Scott and I have seen during our guiding careers, called the Ravens Court female. And she was defending her cub up a tree from, I think it was the Campan male, I'm not 100% sure. Incredibly sadly, we'll finish and go across to the lions and on the move.
And the Birmingham boys are up for the night. I wonder what they're going to be up to. The oldest one has just moved off to the north. Oh, it's actually coming back. I'll try and stick with this boy for now to see what he's going to do. I wonder, they're still moving around this area. They're sniffing around here. I'm trying to keep eyes in the back of my head to try and see what they're doing. They could well be going down to the dam for a drink, but I can't follow until they've all moved, because the other three are still in my way. He's off down towards the dam. And the clearest view at the moment is the one with the slightly injured ear. I want to shine the light directly in his eyes. I'm just trying to bounce a little bit of it off him. Licking himself. They've all been yawning. I think there's a good chance that they're going to get up now. Let's just wait and see. I can't see where those other two have gone, and I can't reposition at the moment. So let's see if this particular gentleman decides to get up and move about. Now, seeing them standing, it's quite clear that they haven't eaten in quite a few days. So they will be hungry. They will be out and about on the prowl tonight, looking for something to eat. I haven't heard any reports of buffalo around here, but there are definitely Duggar boys around. Here he's got that slightly cut eye that's obviously causing him discomfort. It's on his right side, which will be on your left if he looks at us, and a floppy ear. Definitely been clashing with other males, other lions, and I think most likely it's the rest of this coalition. I know I mentioned earlier that Andrew said they were fighting over the female a couple of days ago, which is unusual, but not unheard of in young male lion coalitions. You do occasionally get battles for dominance and hierarchy. Oops, sorry. What are you going to do, boy? Are you going to get up? I just want to get a hold of the vehicle behind me and see if the other two are lying down or what they're up to. Tom for Jamie. Yeah, Tom, are the other two, are they lying down or are they still moving? Copy that, thank you. It does seem as though the lions are still moving, the two boys who did get up. It is the Birmingham boys up and about for the evening. They are unfortunately going in a northwesterly direction, which is away from our boundary. Oh, big yawn. Definitely giving themselves a very good clean. It usually is a prelude to them getting up. The other two are moving. It's interesting to watch the way that this coalition decides on how they're going to move and what they're going to do and where they're going to go. I'd love to know who calls the shots and who makes the decisions. Now that the one that was quite close to me has moved off, I can actually reposition a little bit and we can get a slightly different view of them. Just see the other car engine is off. Stop here. It is very thick in this block, and by the time we do follow them out of it, I think they're going to have crossed onto Buffels Hook, which is outside of our area of traverse, so we won't be able to follow them. But a wonderful evening spent with them, and I'm going to say a big thank you to Brian for all of his fantastic camera work this evening, and of course a big thank you to all of you. And we're going to send you back across to Brent for the last few moments of this sunset safari. Have a wonderful day, guys, wherever you are in the world.
So Karula is feasting away, and it's getting towards the end of the sunset safari, and we're quite peckish as well. Hopefully we've got a delectable meal like the Queen. Hopefully mine's a little bit better done. I do like my meat quite rare, but not quite that rare. And also aged in the fridge, not in the sun. But it's been a fantastic sunset safari. So spoiled to have lion and leopard, and that is incredible elephants, and that really big herd as they moved through with that musk bull trailing them. Hopefully either a female comes into estrus and he stops harassing the herd, or he moves on to another herd, because you could see that whole herd was under a little bit of stress from that big bull who was following them. And also fantastic timing when we arrived. Karula came down, and when we got back she went up. So I hope you guys have really enjoyed our time with the Queen, who I know is a very big favorite of all of yours. So guys, for the last few minutes, I'm quite sure you'd much rather look at Karula. She's much prettier than me, so let's go have a look at Karula, and we will be with you bright and early for the sunrise safari tomorrow.